Hey, what is going on, everyone? That is a wrap on the 2020 college football season, and Alabama, your national champions, defeating Ohio State 52-24, and it is on. Matt Scalisi. Bring out the confetti cannons, y'all. Let's go. Yeah.
I don't have any confetti in the house, but I may have some kind of prop.
It up.
Yeah, you're doing some homemade. Yeah.
And now I got to vacuum it up. Good job, sister. Good job. Okay, so that was fun. We couldn't be there in Miami to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Earlier, I had my "'Tis the Season" football shirt on, and now I've got relaxed because hey, guess what, y'all?
It's done. We finished it.
Relax.
We made it through the season.
We made it through the season.
It was honestly a pretty relaxing second half for Alabama in this game. This thing was basically, I mean, it was possible for Ohio State to mount a comeback, but it felt pretty early on in the second half like this thing was over with. Like Ohio State just didn't have what it takes to get back into this game. And, we called for a shootout, and it really didn't get to that point.
And, for a quarter or so-ish.
I mean, I think Ohio State did some really good things offensively in this game, but I think, you look at, I think for the first thing that happens is you lose arguably your best offensive playmaker at the outset of this game, which is really unfortunate. Everybody wanted to see Trey Sermon at his best in this game, and just kind of a freak thing. He goes out of the game super early. I think it's probably fair to say Justin Fields wasn't 100% in this game.
I would agree.
I think he played pretty banged up and hesitant. But look, all that said, this was still an incredibly talented Ohio State team. I really do think that their defense challenged Alabama in some ways that they haven't been challenged this season. And Alabama just kept finding ways to move the ball down the field and score. They really didn't get stopped very many times. They did have a turnover, kind of a freak play, and just bounced right back from it afterwards. I mean, I think this was the perfect display of kind of what this team was good at all season, which was just relentless offense that just doesn't seem to be able to be stopped. It's got that zombie movie vibe to it, where it doesn't matter what you do to this Alabama offense. Doesn't matter how good you play the run. Doesn't matter if you drop deep into coverage and take away the deep ball from them. Doesn't matter if Devontae Smith comes out at halftime and doesn't go back into the game from an injury. It doesn't matter if you've got missing players, if your center goes out with an injury 2 weeks before the national title game. It doesn't matter what you do to this Alabama offense. They keep dragging themselves forward and scoring, and you can't stop them. They are a zombie. They were terrifying for everybody to play. And Ohio State honestly did about as well as anybody else against them this year.
Matt, you would use the analogy of the reference point of a zombie movie.
I'm a big fan. Yeah.
You seem to you strike me as such, the zombie movie fan. Hey, but it's a great analogy, and you said it there. And I want to get into obviously some of the positives, but I started cringing there in the second half. Obviously early on, Waddle comes in and plays. His ankle, obviously not full strength. He's hobbling around. He's struggling there. You kind of just grimace a little bit. And even seeing some of the tweets from the NFL guys, just like, hey, get out. Like, don't do this. Don't risk it all kind of thing. And, that's the one thing, especially in these games, is, you want to see these guys go out with a win, obviously, but more importantly, healthy. And I think that was the one thing. And then, of course, you talked about Devontae Smith going out with a hand injury. Obviously, they covered it up. When they went in the tent, he was in the tent 15, 20 minutes, took him back. I'm really thankful, though, they brought him back out there towards the end of the game so he could enjoy sort of those final moments with the team. And then, of course, go out on the field for the celebration and everything else. But, man, I just hate that. You just want to see someone like that had such a record performance, which is crazy.
He still did. He finishes as the offensive MVP in this game and only played one half.
Yeah, he had 12 catches and 3 touchdown catches, and he had the second most receiving yards ever posted in a national title game with 215.
Look,
and that was
half
of football.
I totally understand you hate to see a guy get hurt. it doesn't sound like it's going to be something serious. There was some speculation that it was a dislocated finger, which is a relatively minor thing. You can repair that and bounce back from it. Probably would have been more painful than anything else for him to play with it tonight.
Go back up. I like his you see his mask there.
The mask was awesome. Absolutely
That's
great.
pretty cool.
But I have to say, not that I don't feel bad for somebody getting a finger dislocated. I'm sure it's not fun, but DeVonta Smith gave his team a massive lead in this game by the time he had to come out, and it really wasn't much in doubt anymore after this was over with. I think he gets named offensive MVP. He's got a Heisman Trophy. I don't know that he's got too much to be upset about tonight, and I think even what a moment for two guys here. I think Jalen Waddle, obviously, I understand the concerns. I understand people shouting on social media saying it's not worth it. Don't do it. You're shaming Alabama, saying they shouldn't be putting him out there. First of all, it's been very clear from the beginning that Jalen Waddle made the decision as to whether he was going to play tonight or not. And I think that Alabama, I'm not going to sit here and say that schools never do anything that jeopardize a player's health because it might help them win. But I don't think that Alabama would have had much incentive to put him out there if he wasn't going to be good enough to contribute tonight. And I don't think Jalen Waddle or his family would have allowed him to go out there if they were worried about it impacting his future long term. But ultimately, it's the kid's decision, and you have to leave it up to him. I think that's the right way to look at this. It's not really any of our places to second guess what Jalen Waddle wants to do. And the truth is, I mean, maybe he slowed his recovery by doing what he did tonight. Maybe he aggravated the injury, but he absolutely did contribute to this game. I mean, he had multiple catches, a couple of them for first downs. So he was a contributor, especially when DeVonta Smith had to come out of the game, and they needed guys out there that were a threat to catch the ball and make plays with it. So I think that's an incredible moment. That's the thing we'll remember about this season and that player in particular. And then you look at the end of the game with Landon Dickerson, who
that was awesome.
We all thought, we weren't going to see him in uniform again. Just to even see him dressed out for the team before the game was a really cool gesture. And we're all saying, look, it's nice, but he's not going to play. And then he goes out there for a couple of snaps to finish the season as the center. Just a team that got the chance to kind of fulfill so many dreams and so many ambitions. It's a team that had tremendous potential. There's nobody that would call this team a bunch of scrappy underdogs. That's not what this story is. This is not a Cinderella story. But these guys are, I think, inspirational in as much as sometimes it's really cool to see a bunch of people with incredible potential live up to it. And it's harder than it sounds to do that. You might have a bunch of advantages, but sometimes that can be an obstacle. Sometimes knowing you're so good can get in the way of working with other people, of staying focused on what you have to do to get better and accomplish things. This team never took their foot off the gas. They didn't take a week off. They didn't get distracted. There was no infighting. They liked each other. They bonded. And on top of all of that, they did it in a year where there were incredible distractions in the world around them, some of which they couldn't control, but some of which they actually decided to speak up about. They actually became leaders on some important issues in the country. And I think it was something that they did at a time when that maybe wasn't necessarily popular with a lot of their fans. So this is not only a team that is an all-time great college football team on the field, but they also took some unprecedented steps in terms of leading their community and advocating for important causes that they believe in. And I don't know that you can ask much more from a college football team than what these guys were able to do this year.
Mic drop. We're done. We're out. Peace. I mean, you just laid it all out there first off. Okay, we're done. Hey, man, I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. And everything you reiterated, the sentiments you shared there, so very true. And going through this season and understanding it and being part of it week in and week out and just having, somewhat of an understanding of how these kids are having to operate each and every week during this pandemic. Certainly incredible. And I want to point out this statistic that's pretty impressive. Our colleague Matt Zenitz kind of did the final analysis of the game, and this is the stat line he kind of put at the top. He said, here's a stat that will help to put this season into perspective, one that helps to sum up how good Alabama was this season, despite facing an all-SEC schedule and then two of the top 4 teams in the country in the playoff. The Tide ended the season with an average scoring margin of 49-19. Yes. 49-19. That means Alabama outscored 11 SEC teams and the combination of Notre Dame and Ohio State by an average margin of 49-19. And, it is truly remarkable when you think about that and everything that they were able to piece together. And then, of course, just, kind of seeing the fate unfold. And you got a guy like Mac Jones, obviously, hopefully his injury is not very significant. I know he was struggling with the leg injury there at the end. Hope to get some more updates on that, but finished 36 of 45, 464 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. 464 yards is the most ever in a college football playoff title game. Obviously, I know we haven't been playing the title game for very long, but still very impressive. And the second most in a single game in Alabama history. And then, offensively, we shined a light on them. But you got to think about the defense, too, and what they were able to accomplish and limiting Justin Fields. Like you said, I don't think he was 100%. And keep in mind, Ohio State was missing 13 players, 3 of which were starters. So we knew coming into this game they probably wouldn't be full speed. We knew there were some COVID issues. We knew Justin Fields would be limited. Trey Sermon obviously going out, certainly, disappointing. But I do not think that if all those pieces were put into place 100%, it would have changed the outcome of this game. Maybe the score, but I don't think the outcome of the game would have changed. I think that we would have still been kind of looking at the same picture, maybe a little bit, less of a gap there. But man, what a game, what a way to finish, and what a way to tie a bow on the 2020 college football season, one that will be remembered forever in so many different ways. And ultimately, I guess, the hope is there won't be another one like it, because if you're like me, I'm ready to.
I certainly hope so. Yeah, but
let's get on.
I think we're going to remember so many things about this season. I think outside of the obvious distractions and the weirdness of it, I think Devontae Smith, a wide receiver, winning the Heisman. I mean, that's the first time in many, many fans' lifetimes that we've seen that happen. It's an incredibly unique thing to happen. Probably won't happen again anytime soon. It's a cool and unique moment in history. On top of that, Mac Jones puts in what I think quietly has to be considered one of the best, certainly the best season for a quarterback in Alabama football history. And we're not talking about a guy that had high expectations on him. I mean, I certainly spent all offseason saying that I thought Alabama was going to have to build their offense differently. I mean, I guess we saw a little bit of it in the bowl game, but Mac Jones didn't do anything last season really until that Citrus Bowl that would cause anybody to believe that he was going to have the kind of year that he had this year. And it's a truly remarkable achievement what he did, capped off by what he did tonight with 464 yards and 5 touchdowns. Just an unthinkable performance for a quarterback from Alabama just 4 or 5 years ago. It would have been mind-blowing to even imagine that a quarterback from Alabama was capable of doing something like that. It's now fairly commonplace for this program. And, Nick Saban's talking to the press right now. He said we were an okay team defensively, which is about the only negative thing you'll hear him say about this team. But that's all they needed to be. They just needed to be okay. And I think they were able to get enough stops. I think they were able to slow down Ohio State and the other opponents just enough And I think especially as the season went on, their pass rush really started to come on, that they were able to do what they needed to do to support the offense. And the best part about this Alabama defense is most of these guys are super young, and they're going to be back next year and the year after that probably too.
Lock and reload. That's what Nick Saban does.
Number one recruiting class coming in again. So I don't expect Alabama to be out of the playoff picture anytime in the near future.
That's right. I couldn't agree with you more. Certainly a fun future ahead. It's gonna be, well, I mean, it's been a wild ride this season, but looking ahead to what the future looks like, obviously Sarkisian no longer going to be with the Crimson Tide. They're trying to shore up that right now in terms of bringing in a different offensive coordinator to replace him. That's always the case for Alabama. So, there will be some moving pieces, some moving parts, some different things that we'll be keeping an eye on here in the off season. It's hard to believe we're talking about the off season because we're officially about to turn the clock to midnight and turn the clock to 2021 college football season, right? That's how we do. That's how we do. But it's been fun, Matt. Been fun hanging with you, obviously, in the virtual room here. Patrick, our producer, Patrick, will you pop up your face real quick, buddy? I want you to pop up your face on the screen. Do it now.
There he is. He doesn't have any lights on.
How's everybody doing? We got to keep the kids quiet, So
that's right.
Kids at home.
Patrick has been
super fun year. Thank you guys for watching.
Patrick's been making the magic happen all season for us, and we really appreciate what he's done with this show.
Yes, Patrick.
Ryan Howard, we appreciate you guys watching.
Yes, absolutely. We'll get you guys Nick Saban's post-game presser as well as the players as those become available to us. And, of course, you can check out all the updates, instant analysis, conversations, the look-aheads, all the above on our website, AL.com, from all of our beat reporters that are there in Miami covering things as they unfold, and of course on all our social channels. But again, we appreciate you guys. We wish you guys all the best, good health, keep it real, and we also want to thank our sponsors once again. Andrew Sports Medicine, as we close it out, confetti for all. Andrew Sports Medicine, we appreciate you. Matt, I appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Congrats to Bam.
Andrews Sports Medicine, aggressively pursuing victory over injury. Call 205-939-36